Hello everyone. Today we are going to see how Konami tried to power creep Mystical Space Typhoon, or as is most commonly known in the community, as MST, over the life of Yu-Gi-Oh! First, people throw around the word power creep all the time, but what exactly does power creep mean? Power creep is when a new card is released that replaces an older card in the meta or from just being used so that the latter card becomes irrelevant eventually. Throughout Yu-Gi-Oh!, Konami has used Power Creep to try and eliminate older cards from the meta or just being used by casual players to try to sell more cards in the recent booster pack. It's a common trick in regarding business that Konami will do. Decks such as Sylvan's used to be a tier 1 deck in 2014, but in the current meta, at close to full power, it cannot keep up with the likes of Trickstars and Gokis. During all this power creep, one would notice that one card that stuck around for 10 plus years in the meta and being used by all the casuals was Mystical Space Typhoon. Now there are so many memes that go with Mystical Space Typhoon, but that's because it just would not die. It would not get power crept for the longest of time. But starting at the beginning, MST was first released in the booster pack of Magic Ruler as an ultra rare. It is a quick play spell card that the effect reads: target one spell trap card on the field, destroy that target. It is a simple effect, but as Konami found out, it was a very powerful one. To be able to destroy an opponent's card for a 1-for-1 with no downside was exhilarating, but the most important part of MST was arguably the ability to be used during your opponent's turn. This just increased the amount of versatility that you could use it during both players' turn, so no matter what the situation was, Mystical Space Typhoon was a great choice. This was a big factor that kept MST from being power crept by Konami. But nevertheless, that did not stop Konami from trying. Konami released a trap card soon after in Dust Tornado that would let you destroy an opponent's spell trap card, and then you could set a spell trap card from your hand. Konami tried to incentivize you to use Dust Tornado by being able to set another card after Dust Tornado was used, but it was proved to just be too slow overall. Dust Tornado was meant to destroy back row on your opponent's turn and set another card that you could use to disrupt the opponent. The big fault, however, was that you had to wait a turn to destroy some back row, and if the opponent had a card such as a Floodgate open on your turn that prevented you from playing Yu-Gi-Oh!, you still were not able to. Thus, people continued to opt to use MST over Dust Tornado due to the versatility of MST. Konami then released various spell cards, such as Twister, to try to power creep MST. Now, Twister is a quick play spell card that makes you pay 500 life points, and then you can destroy one spell trap card on the field. So it's pretty much an MST copy and pasted, but you have to pay life points for it. So there was no reason to run Twister over MST because the only difference was with Twister you had to pay life points. So MST had no downside, no other downside. Konami also released a normal spell card in Night Beam that allowed you to destroy an opponent's back row. But the kicker was that the opponent could not activate the card in response. While this sounds great that the opponent could not chain their card in response, Night Beam was a normal spell card, however, so it could not be used on your opponent's turn. Again, people opted for the versatility of MST, even though Night Beam was arguably better on your turn. It was just being able to disrupt your opponent and his plays through his turn that people saw the power in MST. After a while, Konami saw that releasing spell and trap removal that's a 1-for-1 will have little to no chance to end up creeping MST. So they decided to go the route where one card had the potential to eliminate two back row. The first card that was hyped as a potential MST replacement was Galaxy Cyclone. Galaxy Cyclone was the start of cards that had secondary effects after the initial activation. The Galaxy Cyclone effect reads: target one set spell trap card on the field, destroy it. During your main phase, except for the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one face-up spell trap card on the field, destroy it. You can only use this effect of Galaxy Cyclone once per turn. As Galaxy Cyclone was released in Cross Souls, people were hyping it since it had the potential to be used on your next turn to remove another back row from your opponent. This card saw play when it released in Cross Souls, but as time passed, it seemed to be slowly forgotten. While having the +1 back row removal potential was nice, the second effect could only be used on face-up cards, which limited the ability to activate it. Also, the first effect had to be used on a set card, so again, if your opponent had a face-up Floodgate, you cannot use Galaxy Cyclone on it, which again limited the ability to use Galaxy Cyclone in general. And so due to those two restrictions, people decided to continue to use Mystical Space Typhoon, even though there was a higher potential if you would have used Galaxy Cyclone. Finally, in 2016, in the set Breakers of Shadow, Konami was finally able to release a card that Power Crept MST. Now, as most people know, this card is known as Twin Twisters. Twin Twisters is a quick play spell card that lets you discard one card to target up to 2 back row and destroy them. Twin Twisters is essentially 2 MSTs put into one card. And what better way is it to power creep MST than by putting 2 of them into one card? It lets you destroy 2 back row by discarding one card, so it is a 1-for-1 with no other downfalls with discarding a card and then targeting up to 2 back row and destroying them. It ended up taking Konami 14 years from Magic Ruler of 2002 to 2016 to finally create a card that would replace Mystical Space Typhoon. Now, MST proved to be a card that, no matter what Konami did, it would not die. It was one of those original cards that were extremely powerful, just like Monster Reborn, that no matter what was done, it would stay in the meta. Konami tried and failed again and again to power creep MST, so much so that we now have a glut of spell and trap card removal cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! There are just tons and tons and tons, as the eye can see whenever someone will join. And this is due to Konami's inability of being able to phase out MST in the meta. Now, this has been how Konami finally power crept Mystical Space Typhoon. And remember to have a great day today.